Alright, what's up guys? I'm not going to be the first to make this video. There are already a few out like this. However, I just wanted to make another one and kind of give my thoughts and opinions on the Gear Score matchmaking, as well as go over a few more things with it, which will be like, playing within certain gear brackets and things like that. As you see, like I have a very unique kit on right now, you could say, and there's a reasoning for that I will, like I said, I will go over a bit later in the video. But basically, to start off with, we now have gear-based matchmaking in ranked lobbies, which replaces the AP matchmaking. And I've got to say, my initial impressions were I wasn't really sure how it would be. I've done properly, I thought it'd be good. And I think the way it was done isn't bad. I think it obviously could be better, but I think it's better than what I expected. I expected them to just do like a purple plus gear or below purple gear because that's the way they've done it before. And obviously that's not the way it was done. So if you don't know how it works, is each weapon or each piece of gear and utility items, so consumables like campfires and potions, are assigned a value based on the rarity of the item. So like, let's say like a blue weapon, a blue one-handed weapon in your main hand might be worth like 20 points, and like a green chest piece is worth like 10 or something, right? And after you put all this gear on, it adds up all of your total items for your consumables and your armor and your weapons, and it gives you a gear score of this kit is at 199. And then there are three gear score brackets. You have 1 to 199, you have 200 to 399, and then 400 plus. And you can only match within your gear score bracket. And how this works for teams is it takes the average of the team's gear score. So let's say you have one person that is at 200, one person that's at 0. It's going to average you out to like 100 or like 99 or whatever the number is that it averages out to, right? Just 100. Yeah, I'm an idiot. I don't know why I said 99. 100. So there are some really interesting things you can do with this that I will get into a bit later. But basically, I'm going to cover the things I think are good about it and things I think are bad. So the biggest positive for gear score matchmaking is it makes it so all gear has value. As you can see, I have, some greens and blues on here mostly, even junk tier items. It makes so all of these items have a value that is, like I said, there's a value for how they get counted for gear score, and because of this, it makes using all items good. Like you can even see it right here. I started saving up a bunch of like random greens and blues and stuff for this because I was having fun last night playing in these under 200 gear score lobbies. And yeah, I know you're like, oh, you're smurfing on these Timmies, killing them. I've had better PvP in these under 200 gear score lobbies than literally my HR trio games, right? I've killed people that are in like Brave Hunters and Wolf Hunters and all these other things, and it was just kind of ridiculous. But anyways, moving on, moving on from that and getting more into gear score matchmaking, it gives all of these items value. So no longer is it just, I'm just putting on the best stuff I have at the highest rarity, and that's my kit. Now it's, oh, I want to play in 200 400 bracket, so I'm gonna min max my gear perfectly to stay at like the 398 399 area. And I will pull up, hold on, right here. I'll pull up the Darker wiki. If you don't know this, like there's a bunch of stuff on here. They update this really good, really well. It's really good, and they have a ton of different things. But you can see here, you can see the rarity of the item's gear score and like what each thing's worth. You see there's different amounts for depending on the piece, like armor, depending on the piece of armor, depending on like the weapon, two-handed, one-handed main hand, one-handed offhand, jewelry, and then utilities. And how you like these are like potions, campfires, and all that. And yes, these do count, and it's counted per item. So if you have three poor potions that you bought, it would be 3 by 3, so it's 9 points, and it adds up like that. And then here's the three gear making, the gear matchmaking brackets. You have low gear, which is 0 to 199, medium gear 200 to 399, and high gear 400 plus. So let's, like I said, if you want to play in the 200 to 399 bracket, you put on a perfect amount of gear that puts you just within there. And to use that, somebody has made a gear score calculator, which I will try to remember to link down below. And to use this, what you have to do is you go to this link, click File, click Make a Copy, and then you have access to this one right here, which you could choose. Like, you can go like Epic, Poor, Uncommon, and then it automatically calculates your gear score over here on the right, and it shows you the brackets that you want to try to stay within. And this allows you to do some pretty cool things, but like I said, I will get more into this in a moment. But hiding that for now. So, like I was saying, the positives are it makes all gear valuable, right? Because like if you're trying to play within a certain gear bracket, then sometimes you have to wear worse gear. Like I showed, I'm wearing a junk tier heater shield. I'm wearing a junk tier crossbow because these save me a lot of points that I could spend on other things like wearing a ring or getting more meds or a campfire or, a higher rarity chest piece. Because I think before I had a white crossbow and no chest piece, and taking this and using going down to a junk crossbow allowed me to put on a chest piece, which gave me, another 9 HP and some armor rating, which isn't much, but I'm pretty much just. And also, this is a copper light, so I barely lost any move speed. I'm losing 0.3 move speed to put it on for 9 HP. And I literally bought copper last night specifically to use this for this thing because I thought it was really fun. Which is something else. It makes items like copper good. Before, copper light sucked. Now, it's actually useful. It gives use to all these random things that no one's ever going to use for. One of my biggest complaints a long, long time ago with them gear capping norms to white gear only was it made all like these greens, like green items, for example, were completely useless. They're not good in HR. They're not good enough for HR, and you can't use them in norms, so they're pretty much just dead. It's just you pick one up and you put one on until you find even a slightly better blue, and then you replace it with that. Now, green items are actually really, really good because that's the mainstay in these 199 gear score lobbies. It's great. But anyways, I think that's really fun. I think something else that's really good is it's really nice for an average player to be able to hop on and, let's say they have no gear and they could queue up in an HR game and they're not going to guarantee to get stomped by some full juice person. Like, I'm not saying they're not going to get stomped by me in my full juiced 199 kit because this kit right here is under a 199 gear score. And as you see, you could do some pretty ridiculous things. Like, I've seen rogues that have, 11 true damage, 330 move speed, that are crazy. However, that's while they're going to hit really hard, they're also they have no HP. It's like an 80 HP rogue. They're still very killable. Like me, my kit, I literally died with a kit similar to this last night because I ran into other people that were doing the same thing. And we ran into 2 warlocks, and we killed both warlocks, but funny enough, we both died to their curses after we killed them. So just 4 of us died right there. So, yeah, this is pretty insane, but it's still very killable, right? It's not completely unkillable. And this is much better than me loading in a 180 HP plate kit that's almost as fast as this in a neophyte lobby and smurfing on them, right? Because there's no more rank matchmaking, now it's just gear matchmaking. Now, moving on to the downsides, I do think there's some pretty glaring downsides about this. One of them is, honestly, what I'm doing now is honestly a downside. I'm not even going to deny it. Being able to smurf in these lobbies with stuff like this could ruin the new player experience. However, I don't think this game has ever been particularly new player friendly. It has had better times, it has worse times, but I don't think this right here is the worst thing ever. This is better than this is like I said, this is better than people queuing in and getting smurfed on by, a full BIS purple team, right? That are in neophyte lobbies. Much better than that. Also, it adds an aspect of fun where it's like, oh, we want to play in a lower geared thing or lower geared lobby, so we're going to min-max our gear, or, I only want to play in lower geared lobbies. Because the thing is, for a new player, it's a lot harder for them to come into contact with really high level gear, right? Like legendary, purple legendary plus gear. It's really hard for them to come into contact with gear like that. But you play a random ice caves and you're going to find 30 greens in one run. Finding good green gear is much easier than finding, good purple gear. So all of these, normal players that I say normal players. When I say normal players, I just mean players that aren't actively playing at the highest level, like full purple BIS and stuff like that. Not your casual player, but your normal HR player. They can find a ton of good greens, or you can mine copper and craft copper pieces because there's full copper armor over here. You have all this copper armor you could craft. So everyone can do this, and you can come into contact with these really good green gear, and you can stay within these brackets and just BIS yourself out in green gear. Because then, if you move to the next bracket, you either BIS yourself out there to feel, comfortable or to, want to win these fights, or you have a good chance of winning fights. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's what this game's about, right? Getting the best gear possible and beating people. That's literally, what this game's whole thing is. But, I think it definitely makes it fun. However, there are some, like I said, there are some negatives, like I just mentioned. People pretty much smurfing within gear brackets. Eventually it's going to become really hard because if the more people do this, the harder it will be within those brackets. But then, you could do things like put on better gear to get out of your bracket, move into a different bracket to, play there. But that's, that's not, I'm going to say that's good. I'm not going to say that's bad. It kind of is what it is. Then moving on, other than that, I think the only real downside is it's really easy to push up leaderboards while having nothing on, right? Either you can load into lobbies with super gear scored out with bad, Like you could put on full legendaries or buy a bunch of purples that are really bad to specifically push yourself into the top gear score to try to get dead lobbies. Or you can try to stay in these lobbies right here and grind demigod that way while having nothing. Well, you're not really risking anything, right? Like, oh, I was in like, white green gear, but I was a bunch of Timmys in my lobbies, so I was never risking anything even if I died. Which, I mean, the whole point of the game is risk, right? Like you shouldn't be able to climb all the way to demigod while not risking anything other than like some AP, you know? Because let's say, because this is for all maps. This isn't just like trios or duos. This is for solos too. And like let's say like a bard in an under 200 gear score kit can still farm bosses in under a minute, like relatively easily. Bards destroy bosses. Rogue might take them a bit longer. Slayer fighter, they're gonna kill it really fast. So you could still get insane efficiency out of these relatively cheap builds. I say relatively cheap. I mean, honestly, like this is actually kind of funny. Look at how expensive some green gear has become. This is actually let's look at this. Look at this. Where's that? On uncommon bed. Look at this. Oh, where were we at? Like last night, because somebody's bought all these. There's been a bunch listed. Last night there were 6 green rapiers with weapon damage on the market, and the cheapest weapon damage one was 500 gold. It's that crazy. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Whenever I'm literally about to buy all these and relist them for the people that are gonna do this because that's free money. But anyways, that's something for when the video ends. So it's very easy to manipulate and abuse the gear score system. That is the biggest downside. However, if it allows people to have fun, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, if the system that is implemented is not working correctly, but the way it is working allows people to have more fun, I don't think that's a problem. And I don't know it's allowing people to have more fun because I don't speak for everyone I speak about this. I'm only speaking from my own experience, and I've had a ton of fun with it. I had more fun last night min-maxing kits and playing in under 200 gear score lobbies than I've had playing HR Trios in a while. And mostly that's because HR Trios has been dead, but that's neither here nor there. So moving on a bit more to the gear score calculator. Like I said, this is really fun. I mean, it's not really fun to use. It's really, you can do some interesting things with gear score. Like I mentioned earlier, how it works is it takes the average. So let's say you want to play in the 199 gear score lobbies. You could have one teammate go to like 400 gear score, like 390 gear score, while you loading completely naked. And it'll average you guys down to under 200, which is very interesting. It doesn't calculate based on like a per player basis. It's not like, oh, both of these players are under 200, we put them in the 200 lobbies. It's no, the team's average is under 200, so we put them in the 200 lobbies. We ran into a team last night that we killed where it was a barb and a ranger, and the barb was completely naked, but the ranger was in like full blue purple gear, jewelry, cape, necklace, like double purple weapons. Like he was definitely 350, 400 gear score, while his barb was completely like deep, like literally nothing on, like no meds, anything. And so they just did that so the ranger could have like crazy levels of gear, and then we ended up killing them. Like I think I still have the guy's bow in here. Let me see. Yeah, like the ranger had like this bow on in the 200 gear score lobbies, and it was comedy. And he had like a recurve. I think he had like a blue windlass or something, or a purple windlass. But it was really funny. Oh wait, I just realized I didn't even show it. Sorry. Yeah, he had this bow right here in like the under 200 gear score lobbies, and it was pretty crazy. But anyways, I think, in my opinion, like I said, my opinion is like gear-based matchmaking. While I think it's fun for the game, I think there are some players that won't like it. However, you're never gonna make everybody happy with your changes. That's just kind of a fact of life when it comes to balancing games. And I do think at some point, I think fun is more important than balance. Whenever long time ago when Iron Mace was first like making Dark and Darker, like during the playtest, something they said is we care more about we care more about fun than balance in our game. And I think that's a good mentality to have. I think balance, while certainly balance is important, there is a limit to the extent that you need to balance things. You don't need to be focusing on balance if the things that are unbalanced are fun, right? Like, there are obviously some things in the past that we've had that needed to be nerfed because, while they might have been fun for the person playing them, everybody else in the game hated it, It's like, I think Warlock meta during Ruin's last wipe, where there was 2 weeks where Caster Warlock was the most broken thing ever, and there was no counterplay to it whatsoever, right? Like, I'm sure the Warlock players had a ton of fun, but everybody else hated themselves and hated the game. Like, that probably needed to be nerfed. But when, like I said, everybody's having fun, whether, not everything's broken, and you really need to nerf it. Because, like, balance is a never-ending cycle, right? Buffing things, nerfing things. Look at any game. No game is ever going to achieve a perfect state of balance. It's just not realistic. So what you want to do is you want to get things as relatively close to balance as possible, and then just let people have fun. Just let them go wild, you know? And I think that's what the gear score matchmaking is going to be. I think maybe they could lower it a bit. I think, dropping it down from 199, I think 199 is a bit high, or maybe they change the way they do it. I think later on, if they do it based on roles specifically, it'll be better. However, it's really hard to do that based on, because certain roles are good for certain classes, but not good for others. But the thing is, if they do eventually do that, which like I said, I do think it'll be very, very good, it makes it much harder to smurf because, full green gear with bad rolls shouldn't be in the same bracket as full green gear with perfect rolls. Because my kit right now, like, I could run this kit in the next gear bracket and be perfectly fine with it. Like, I would be perfectly content running this kit because this kit's insane. However, I'm able to run this kit in the lowest bracket and still be fine. Like, imagine you load up default kit and you see a 160 HP fighter with 100 or 312 move speed. I get bard buffed and I go even higher. I'm like 104%, and then I'm like 161 HP or something. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up for the video for me. Thank you guys for watching, and feel free to leave your opinions on this gear-based matchmaking down below. I didn't really want to make a video like going like, oh, how to exploit gear-based matchmaking, because if you decide to do that, that's up to you. I just want to tell you guys I had a ton of fun with it, and, go try it out and tell me what you think. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.